Hey, football fans, welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, the show where we gather around and talk about the greatest team in the NFL, the Detroit Lions. I'm your host, Bryan Hanes, and we have some updates on coaches. So let's get into this video. Beforehand, though, if you're not already and you feel like doing it, please go down and hit subscribe. If you do that, you will be updated whenever we put videos out Monday through Friday, all stuff going on with the Lions offseason. So if you're looking to stay informed, please consider going down, hitting subscribe to the channel. With that being said, though, let's jump into today's video. Starting off with our new offensive coordinator, Drew Petzing. What are we really getting out of him? Well, the more I think about it, ever since he got hired, because my first initial response was just, ugh, it makes sense for the Detroit Lions. When you look at what Petzing's best offense looks like, it was leaning on the strong running game that they didn't really have and utilizing play action to keep defenses honest. Now, that's the main reason I wanted Mike McDaniels in the first place, was because of his use of play action and the success he saw in the running game with Devon Acham. But if it's the same mold, so be it. Jared Goff seems to be a really good fit for what Petzing's ideal offense looks like, and Detroit's already got the super strong running game he wants, and it's already established. So premier weapons in both the running game and the passing game. It's not like he doesn't have anything to work with, like the situation in Arizona turned into after some injuries. When Petzing's offense is going to, it rolls. It's tough for defenses to really predict once he gets into his groove, and he really strives for a balanced approach to the offensive game. And as long as Detroit's able to run the football, which is like what we like to do, the Lions play action game should be back to among the best in the NFL, like it was earlier with Ben Johnson. While Goff running the show, it just seems like that's the best case scenario, right? Thus, the reason we need to put so much emphasis on drafting trenches this year. On the other side of the coin, though, Petzing's biggest problem and downfall has been his inability to adjust on the fly. Petzing's, for lack of better terms, is very stubborn with his approach to the offensive game. Defenses quickly figured out if you load the box and force the Cardinals into obvious passing scenarios, all of a sudden Petzing's his play calling, his scheme, his attack quickly becomes very one-dimensional. And that's really scary for Lions fans. That led to three and 15 third and 15 like screenplay calls this year, with Morton just being frustrated trying to force down your play even though it's not working. And it is fair to say that that was the case because their starting running back was out, because Kyler Murray went out. They were forced into the passing game. So maybe with a more put together, healthier offense, it's a different story, but he's going to need to learn to adjust on the fly if he wants to be on this Lions offense, because that was already one of our biggest weaknesses this season. We can't have a return of that same problem. In terms of his rushing attack, it also quickly went downhill once the offensive line coach, Clayton Adams, departed Arizona in the offseason. Which was disappointing given Petzing's background in that department. Adding to that, his passing schemes are simply just not on par with modern day NFL passes and offenses. So, I mean, there's going to be some stuff I'm sure we see where we're just shaking our heads throughout these games, and that is worrisome. I hope Lions like tight ends, though, because his tight end passing game was second to none this year. Before injuries swamped the Cardinals, Petzing's offense had 12 and 13 personnel usages, higher than almost any other team in the league. Trey McBride could be the bounce back kind of attention Laporta needs to get on contract next year. Maybe that's going to be good for him. Overall, though, his numbers with an injury-ridden offense aren't terrible. He made Brissett look like a damn good quarterback in some games where you thought the Cardinals were just going to get blown out. He's just going to have to keep learning as a coach, and he's going to have to get better at adapting if he's going to be someone I trust as a hire. Right now, there's definitely some pros, but the cons really scare me more than the pros excite me. I think if he shows me he is capable of adjusting, I will start to like this hire more. But for now, I'm still uneasy on it. You guys can let me know what you think. This is what we're getting out of our guy. Now, our second topic of the day, going to a different NFC North team with coaches, actually the Packers. So they recently, if you've heard of this, they extended head coach Matt LaFleur to a multi-year contract extension, and the source said that it is, quote, not a prove-it deal, but a real commitment, end quote. Now, this is going to be a drag for Lions fans because it's now giving him the opportunity to continue building, quote unquote, his team after a season where we really got shut down by them in both appearances. so he gets more opportunity to just make his team better, right? It was the first major decision by new team president Ed Palisi, who took over in July for Mark Murphy. It was actually Murphy who hired LaFleur in 2019 to replace Super Bowl winning coach Mike McCarthy. Safe to say, it hasn't changed. Matt LaFleur definitely has his roots ingrained in that building. On the other hand, the Packers have lost a coordinator, according to several sources. The Miami Dolphins actually finalized plans to make Jeff Hafley their next head coach. Hafley earned the gig after just 2 seasons with the Packers as their defensive coordinator. There, he turned around a unit that really struggled under Joe Barry and produced a defense that was tough back-to-back years. There, so he definitely proved it a little bit. Some injuries with them may have not helped their defense, but even with injuries, they still looked pretty good. Although both of those seasons were cut short by losses in the wild card, so he didn't get to that next level he was probably trying to get to. But this is news. This news has even further implications for us. It's benefiting the Lions in a way, right? Lions defensive coordinator Calvin Shepard was also interviewing for the head coaching job in Miami, and it worried some people. It also made some Lions fans happy because they weren't the biggest fans of Shepard. But it seems now that this role has been taken, I don't know. At least Shep's not going there. This means that he's in line to return to us as far as it's concerned now for the defensive coordinator. Although with so many head coaching vacancies still out there, nothing's really set in stone yet, right? As of now, Shepard has still not interviewed anywhere else besides Miami, so it is seeming like he will return to us. While some think of Shepard quite differently, not a fan of him, not a fan of what he did, it's clear that he is still valued within the Lions organization and more importantly, Dan Campbell. And I think they prefer to have him back for 2026, despite some recent defensive struggles. I think you let the man get a second year. He proved that with a healthy squad, he can handle his own. I think you let him get another season. Hopefully, Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch come back ready to go. Hopefully, our secondary is a lot better than it was last year. But I am not as big of a hater as a lot of people think with Calvin Shepard. I think you give him a second year. It was only his first year as a coordinator, too. Give the guy a little bit of slack. I think he did pretty good for a first year, and he's going to keep learning to adjust and get better as we go. I think we just give him some more time to really figure out how he wants to run this defense. That's what I got on that, though. A little bit of good, a little bit of bad. I don't know. If you don't like LaFleur, if you think he's a joke, then maybe this is good news for you. I just think that things are going on right now. It's not so great for us that the Packers get their guy returning and there's not a huge shift in who's running the show. But on the other hand, they lost a defensive coordinator, so maybe that's going to be good for our offense next year. That's going to take us now to our third topic, staying on the topic of coordinators. Why didn't we get Mike McDaniels? That was a huge question after we hired Petzing, and I want to clear up some of the air you guys, some of the questions in the air you guys might be having. So with the announcement that we did hire Petzing as the new offensive coordinator, there was a bunch of reactions from fans and analysts that were not very happy. One of the most popular reactions was frustration that the Lions didn't land former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniels, who was honestly favored among fans to be the guy, while others had thought it was already because he had gotten a head coaching job already lined up, me included. There was more to the story than meets the eye, it seems. So why didn't the Lions choose him? Well, we don't 100% know why exactly. There could be a plethora of reasons why it didn't work out. But ESPN reporter Jeff Darlington provided some insight into Detroit's thought process with Mike McDaniels. So the first quote comes from him saying, "Of course, jobs like McDaniel had interviewed for, the Lions gig was the least likely to materialize. Campbell liked McDaniels a lot, but Lions didn't view it as quite, quote, the right fit for them." So there was a lot more than just his scheme that made it not the right fit for him, I would believe. The last sentence did have a lot believing that Campbell wanted him and was going to take the chance to go throw the bag at him. But it was overridden by others with the organization, and I can see why that's possible to read into the situation. I think there's a way for someone to like someone without exactly viewing them as the right fit for the job altogether. You can like a candidate and not have to hire him. Maybe the personality fit wasn't right. Maybe that's what was going on. Maybe McDaniel doesn't see play calling the way Campbell wanted him to, and that could be another huge reason. We've seen Campbell take over play calling. Maybe the connection with Jared Goff just wasn't ideal, and they weren't going to be a good one-on-one. We really don't know for sure, but as it stands, we got our guy. I'm going to ride with him until I see otherwise. Still not completely 100% on the hire, but he's a Lion, and I'm nothing you can do except trust Dan and Brad and see where this one goes. Yeah, I don't know, guys. I would have liked Mike McDaniels, but you also got to trust the front the front room. If the front office is saying it's not the right fit, then there was obviously something personality wise that probably wasn't good with our players. And like I said, I want a guy who really understands our players and what makes the cogs turn. So I don't want to just force into a guy who has good representation of his run game. I want someone who's more fit for the team, right? I don't know. We'll have to wait and see how it works out and where Mike McDaniels is going to go. You guys let me know if you were kind of upset the fact that we didn't get him, though. Let me know in the comments. And now, just for our fourth topic, a couple of comments from you guys. Starting with Tailgate Gang 2081 says, that comment you read was absolutely not a fair take. We'll be back in the playoffs next year, so you got to stop listening to the SOL crowd. I hear what you're saying, and I'm not saying that I'm thinking the Lions are totally SOL. But I think it's not also fair for me to just blindly root for a team who is dealing with its fair share of problems. So while I do sometimes give some credit to the people who are saying, the Lions aren't in a great position, it's not because I am also thinking, yeah, we're screwed. I'm running the YouTube channel still. I just think that sometimes the devil's advocate is good for the conversation because it adds depth to the problems we're having. So I'm not I'm not selling out. I'm not on the bandwagon, leaving the bandwagon, whatever. I'm just saying there is some value to these other comments. Thank you for your comment, Tailgate Gang. And Linus Thel says, I think Dan wants somebody he can mold and create an OC who shares his style over big name and that have defined style already and might not favor what Dan wants. It's true. I think that's kind of what we were talking about with Mike McDaniels. Mike McDaniels has this, this style. He's got his reputation in the play calling game, but what like you're saying, maybe Dean Campbell wants someone who's not going to just completely change the play calling. He doesn't want someone he has to hire just to have to tell him how to do his job. Maybe he wants somebody a little fresher, maybe like this guy, who he can bring in and kind of, like you're saying, mold him into the kind of offensive play caller he wants in the offseason. So when camps roll around, he's got a better idea of which player can do what the best. I think it's a good take, and I think that's probably what they were going for. I appreciate your comment, Linus Thel. With that being said, we are out of time today. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Lions Latest. If you made it to this point in the video, tell me in the comments right now what you think about what we're getting with our new OC and what your biggest worry is. Make sure you guys like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you never miss a notification on a new video. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I will see you in the next video.